Hey, what is going on, guys? Today I am very excited to bring you a wine advert tutorial. We'll be using Cinema 4D, Octane Render, Realflow 10, Photoshop, and Adobe After Effects. So there's a lot going on in this tutorial. I'm going to split it up into 3 parts. The first part we will do our modeling and setting up of our scene. We'll model the bottle, the cup, and we'll model the corkscrew as well, and then we'll set up our scene so that Realflow can run smoothly with it. Then we will, in part 2, go through Realflow. We'll focus solely on Realflow and getting those liquids and meshes to work correctly, and then getting them back inside of Cinema 4D so we can render them. Part 3, we'll focus on the texturing, and we'll dive into Photoshop texturing for this branding on the wine bottle, and then we'll also do some Octane texturing inside of Cinema 4D. And then we'll do some product rendering as well, and maybe if necessary we'll do some color correction stuff inside of After Effects. But there's a lot of stuff to go through, so I'm going to take it very slow. There'll be very long tutorials probably, but I think it's very important to make sure I get these details right and not rush through things, otherwise it'll be a total mess. So I'm going to be taking my time to make sure everything, all the small details and stuff are done properly. But this will probably be a quite long set of tutorials, and hopefully it's a good introduction to people that aren't necessarily familiar with Realflow. It's not a Realflow beginners tutorial, so I'm not going to explain everything inside the program. It's a very complicated program, and the only reason why I'm doing it now is because Realflow 10 is out and they've made massive improvements. I've been using Realflow 2015 for a few years, and that one is very unstable and very difficult to get to know. But Realflow 10 is made very simple, so that's the reason why I decided to start to make these now. So I will be explaining everything that I did to get the final result, but I'm not going to explain every single thing inside the program itself because that will just take way too long to do. So we're going to start off, we'll dive into it. I have a wine bottle over here, Durban Hills. Actually I have a Pionage version now. I used to have a Merlot version, but my mate threw the bottle away, so I had to go and purchase a new one. But we will be making the same Merlot one that you will see in this picture over here. But I have a slightly different one, but it's overall the same concepts and same stuff. So I have a ruler and I have a wine bottle, and I also have a glass in the kitchen, which I forgot to get, but I'll probably fetch that after we do the bottle. And we're going to model it as close to scale as possible, and we'll see how that goes. So we'll start off with the modeling of the bottle. So this bottle is filled with liquid, and I don't have time to drink it all and finish the tutorial in 24 hours, so I'm going to have to be careful with it and hopefully not drop it. And if my speech does fade away and stuff, I'm sorry. I'm trying to measure this thing while I talk as well, and it's not that easy to keep my mouth directly on the mic the whole time. So okay, so the bottle is around 7 centimeters in radius. That's the thickest part of the bottle over there. So we'll pop in a cylinder, make it 7 centimeters in radius, and the height is around 30 centimeters. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just has to be around there. I would say 30.4. We'll go for that, like so. And we'll go for rotation segments of 8. That was a good number in my final render for the bottle. The cup will probably go for 10, but we'll focus on that later. So here we have a cylinder. I'm just going to get rid of these bars on the side here. They're a bit annoying. And then I'm going to first go off and save it as wine a lot tutorial. So this will be the name that we'll be using for searching. This will be the name that we'll be using for our project. Wine Merlot tutorial will be my name for the project, and I'll be using that across Realflow and stuff like that. So we have our very basic cylinder here. We're going to go and make it editable, and we'll also go and hit optimize, and that's what I have over here. So just hit that, and then I'm going to go and make this axis center at the bottom of the bottle, and then I'll just bump it up to the floor there. I'm going to keep the axis at the bottom there because we're going to be using that for measurements of our bottle. Hopefully you have an actual wine bottle in front of you and you can do this the same steps that I'm doing with your own bottle. But I guess a reference image online could also work, but you won't get it as accurate. It all depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to start measuring out the basic parts of this thing. So I have a curve that starts around 20 centimeters high, and this is why I made this sit on the floor nicely. So now we can just add a line at 20 centimeters high, and then we can do another one over here. I have another curve that starts at 23.3, so I'm just going to bump this up to 23.3, and then I'll add in another one at 20 centimeters over here. So this is where the curve starts, and that's where the curve ends, where the wine bottle actually squashes in. So I think I might as well squash it in a bit just to show you what is happening to the bottle itself. So that's where the curve starts, and that's where the curve ends on this bottle over here. At the bottom, there's a little bump that's around 2.5 centimeters in height. So if I go here, and I place this 2.5 centimeters above ground, like so, there's a little bump that comes out the bottle. So I'm going to go and hit symmetrical with a loop path cut tool. And I'll just do something like that. And then I'll take these two lines here and just extrude them outwards slightly, like so. So I'm trying to imitate that little bump that we have on my actual bottle over here. If I look underneath the bottle, there's this little section that's around 1.1 centimeters in thickness. So the best is probably to take these faces here. Whoops. Take these faces here and extrude them in a 1.1 centimeters like so. And then there's actually a point inside the middle here. If I just turn off the symmetrical cut, right there. So there's a curve that starts there and ends there. There's a curve that's about 1.1 centimeters in depth there. To imitate that curve, what we can do is what we want to do firstly is get that sort of inside wine bottle effect, which is pushed in something like this. Now my wine bottle's full, so I can't actually see what's inside it, which is a problem, but I'm guessing it's around 3.3 centimeters in height, and we can always adjust that later if we feel it's not high enough. And then to get this curve like effective here, we can just get rid of this line here. I'm going to hit dissolve over there. This is what my button here is, dissolve. It just basically deletes the line without getting rid of the faces, and we can get rid of this one as well. And then we can add an extra line in here just for support, like so, somewhere there. And I think that looks good for now. So that part is around done. Now we're going to add in some lines here for extra support of this curve, something like that. We'll fix these soon. At the bottom of the bottle, we have this little nudge at the top, and that nudge is 0.6 centimeters from the top over here. So top of the bottle, if we can try and get this 0.6 to register over there, like so. So if I go here 0.6, that's where the nudge starts. And then the nudge is about 0.7 in total, in total length. So I think the best way to do this is find out the height of this, and then we'll add a line, and then here we'll go paste and then go minus 0.7, like that. So now we have the total length, and then it's also extruded slightly inside here. So these parts are about 0.1 centimeters. So if I go here, go 0.1, that's the size of the extruded part. So we can just simply go here and extrude it outwards like so to get that effect. There is a bit of a bevel at the top here as well, which I'm guessing is probably around 0.1 centimeters, something like that. So you can see we have our very basic shape of our bottle going. It does look a bit weird, so I'm going to sort of adjust this and see what I'm doing wrong here. I forgot to make sure that the scale of this top part of the bottle is correct. So we're going to go and correct that. Probably should have done that first before I did this bevel. So I'm just going to maybe see if I can undo this bevel here, and then we'll do that afterwards. So if I go undo this bevel, this should be 2.5 centimeters. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this since we've gotten added in all the details. I think if I just select all of these, I could probably scale them in nicely if I clever with this. So should be somewhere there. And we're going to get to 2.5 just by scale. There we go. So 2.5 centimeters is the correct size. It still looks a bit funky, so I'm going to try and figure out what I'm doing wrong. So I made a mistake with the size of this here. This should be, this shouldn't be the diameter. This should be the, this should be halved. So I should go here, and I could probably go and scale these in as well, just by scaling them in with the drag tool. But if I go here and just scale it in until it's around 77 centimeters, like, okay, maybe I should get a bit closer and then try and scale it in some more, like so. 6.9, it's actually 6.9, so that's quite accurate. And then here we can sort of try and readjust these points here, because the scale of all of this is now incorrect, these bottom parts here. So I think what we can do is we can bring this down to 0 and bring this down to 0 as well. And then we can sort of see what the size of this is and if it's correct. So I'm going to go and bring this down to 0. I'll get rid of these lines in here, and then we'll just redo these and go faces, extrude inner, and we'll go 1.1. That looks wrong, but it may actually be correct. So if I go here and add in a loop at 50%, we'll see how this final result looks. But I am actually missing a line here, so I should probably redo this part as well. So I'm just going to go copy this, and we will go and paste, 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 and oops, paste. So if I take a look at these, they're all the same size. Get rid of this line and then do this loop here again. So symmetrical to, let's do 1.8, no, 2.2, 2.1, something like that. Like I said, I'm taking the time to get these little details correct because they can really affect the, your final image. So I think that looks about right. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll push this up, this point back up, which I think was 3.3, around somewhere there. And then what I'll do this time is I'll just push these lines up slightly like so. And then we'll smooth it and see what our thing looks like. Okay. I think I should get rid of this line here. Take another look. And I think that looks a bit more accurate. So take a look at our lines. You can see that we have a fairly accurate bottle going. And here we want a bit more of a harsh bottom piece here. We don't want it to be so smooth. So I'm just going to add in a line for support there. And now we're getting that bump that we wanted at the bottom here. And I think this part here also needs to be slightly flatter. So maybe I can try and support that by not adding in 2 lines, but just adding in 1. Like there. And then we can take another look. I'm just going to quickly save it. And I think that looks a bit more accurate, but this line should maybe be pushed up, something like that. And then this inside part actually looks fairly accurate. So the bottom of the wine bottle is done. And now we need to work on the top a bit. So Gonna go and add in that bevel over here that we had, which is around 1.1 centimeters. And then this part here should have a curve. So I still haven't figured out the best way to do these, but what I've done is I've just put a line there and then sort of scaled it out. And I think what the best thing to do is actually just take the height there and then do that, and then sort of push this up until we kind of get this kind of bump here. And I maybe want to scale this in slightly, like so, like that. Okay, and then this part here, we need some added lines to help support this. So I'll add in some symmetrical lines inside here, like that, and then we can take a look. And still not very happy. I think this needs to be a bit more extruded. I'm just going to push these out slightly. Like that, maybe. Okay, and then I think this thing needs some more support, so I'm going to turn off symmetrical, add in a line up there, go away, and then I'll add in a line down here. Take another look, then I think this looks a bit better. A bit more extruded though. I have a actual bottle in front of me, so I'm sort of trying to get it as accurate as possible. And I do apologize that you guys can't actually see what I'm modeling. But if I do want something accurate and not something that looks like shit, like my modeling tutorial, then I'm gonna have to actually use real world references or something that I can measure. So here I'm just gonna go and add in a line to support this bevel, and then I won't do the inside part because we're gonna cut this thing. We're gonna cut the inside part and bevel it. So I don't even know what I'm saying, but you'll see soon. So I'm gonna take a look at my wine bottle. It looks fairly accurate, actually. It does. I think this is I think this is perfect, actually. So the graphic of the bottle starts at 7.6 centimeters in height. So if I go in here and add in a line at 7.6 centimeters, and then I add in another one at 17.6 over here, 17.6. That's where our graphic starts and ends. So if I go and smooth this, and then I take the weight subdivision tool and I just drag it out, this will be the space that our actual graphic will sit on the bottle, and we will do that part inside of Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a copy of this. We'll call this wine bottle save. Just a nice saved version of our wine bottle, just in case. And then we're going to go and cut the inside of this thing. So what we'll do is we will take the top here and we'll delete that. We will take all of this. We will go and right click, extrude, create caps, and the actual thickness of this bottle is around 0.5 centimeters. It is quite thick for a wine bottle, and I think most wine bottles are a lot thinner, but we'll go for 0.4 this time. Most wine bottles are quite a bit thinner, but this one's a thick one, so we're just going to obey its actual measurements. And then you'll see that we have a bit of a mess, and we can clean up a lot of this because we don't need this detail inside. The actual inside of this bottle doesn't have all that detail, so we're just going to slowly get rid of these lines, and we'll place this line at the top here, and then these inside lines here we don't need as well. So if I go inside the bottle, you can see that we have some lines hiding here. So if I just go change this to small, if I change my view clipping to small, we go inside the bottle, you'll see we have some lines here that are interfering a bit. So I'm just gonna get rid of those as well. And the reason why I'm going to keep these two lines inside here is because I want it for our corkscrew, which we will be modeling in. So I'm going to keep that there just for our corkscrew. And if I go and smooth it, and then I go and, ooh, what's happening here? Let me just see what's going on here. There's a weird curve here, which is a bit weird. Okay, so what's happened is I've missed some lines when it comes to my weight subdivision tool. If I take a look here, you'll see that our weights are not correctly applied all the way across. So I'm just going to go and I'm actually going to delete this tag because we don't want the inside parts to be affected by the weights. So we're just going to redo these weights here, like so. And then if I go and apply this all around, it should be smooth lines and nothing weird going on. So that's what our bottle looks like right now. And if I take an X-ray look, you'll see that our insides as well are all functioning quite well. If you want, you can maybe add an extra line and push it up just to smooth that bump out a bit, but we're not going to need to do that. We're not going to be putting any liquids in this bottle, so you don't really need to worry about that. But as you can see, our model is looking very nice. It's going to take one last look at this top here and see what's going on. So I think this edge here should be a bit harder on the side here. I should probably actually go and loop it. So if I symmetrify it, and then now you'll see that's this type of desired look that we wanted. So I'm going to go and get the wine glass, and then we'll start with that model over there. Okay, so now there's a bunch of different types of wine glasses. I'm just using one that I have in my kitchen. So you can use whatever wine glass you want, but I'm going to be modeling off of that. So my wine glass's thickest diameter is 8. So inside the radius you'll put 8, and this time I'll actually halve it. Forgot to do that with my bottle, and that's why we had a bit of problems. So I'm just going to push this to the side here, and the height of this thing is 20.5 centimeters. So I'm going to use 10 rotation segments instead of 8 because in my original project I found that there was just a few less rotation segments that we needed on the glass. For a faraway look, it looked fine, but when I got up close, it looked, you could start to notice it a bit. So I'm just going to bump it up by 2 more rotation segments from 8 to 10, and I think that should be enough for our final render. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go and make it editable and click optimize. And then I will go and put our axis at the bottom and then put this on the floor. I just generally found that this is the easiest way to measure your object. You can measure it from the ground up. So I have this little thick piece at the base over here, which is 0.4 centimeters from the ground. So I can just go put a line there. And then here I'll go 0.4 centimeters. And this wine glass is very curvy, so it's a bit difficult to figure out where you want all your lines to be. But the middle part of where the handle of the glass is, the exact middle is 5 centimeters. And there's this little curve, slight curve outwards that's around, the peak of it is around 5 centimeters from the top. So if I can take the height of this thing and then enter it and then go -5, that'll be the peak of the curve of the wine glass. That's a nice place to put a line. And then there's another curve around 10.5 centimeters from the height that curves a lot inside. So if I go put a line here and then I just take the height again and then go -10.5, that's where I'll put another line for the glass. And then there's another curve that curves inside around 2 centimeters from the ground. So just to help visualize everything, I'm going to start pulling everything inside just so we can sort of see what's going, see the basic shape of the wine glass. The actual diameter of this thing is 0.9, like so. And then I'm just going to do a quick correction think I'll put this at 9.5 centimeters. Okay, so we're gonna go and take these two and we're just gonna extrude them inside, like so. Something like that. And then what we can do is we can measure the top of the glass. Mine is 7.1 centimeters. The very top of the glass should be 7.1, like so. I forgot what this line here is for, to be honest. So I'm just going to get rid of that. I know this is the most outer point of the glass. I don't know why these numbers are uneven. That's a problem. Let me just double check everything. That's not good. Okay, so that's correct. That's not correct. And that's wrong as well. Okay, so now that's fixed. On my wine glass, I have a bit of a bump here. The best way to imitate that is, maybe I should do the easy parts first. So here I have a flat piece inside the glass, which is around 1.5 centimeters in height, in thickness. That's where the bump starts. So if I go here, 1.5, enter, and that's where the flat part ends, and then there's a slight nudge on the inside, so something like that would be good. And I'm just trying to figure out how to get this bump right. So I think we should have a line somewhere there, and then if I push this down and then put another line here, that will be where the bump is. So I'll make this 50%. And then I'll just nudge this up slightly. So I think that's around what it looks like, the real world model. I'll just do this. And then here I can scale this inwards, like so. Should actually be scaled a lot more inward. I think I'll just even these out again and then scale them inwards properly, like so. I think it should be something like so. Okay, so we'll put another line here just to help support this curve, and we'll make that at 50%. Actually, let's not be accurate there, let's get this right. So let's do it somewhere there, and then we can scale this out. Like so. And I'm going to go and smooth this and then see what our wine bottle is coming out to look like. So for the most part, this looks accurate. I'm just going to go and put a line at the top there, just so we can get a better visual look of this whole thing. So for the most part, this looks accurate. If I take a look down here, it's quite accurate, but this thick part here needs a bit more support. So I think I'll put a symmetrical line inside here, something like that, and take a look. Yeah, so it's not really curved, it's a bit flat, and that's why I'm going for 2 lines instead of 1. And then inside here, we need another line to help make sure that this is also flat and not smooth, like so. Yep, so that's around what the real one looks like, but I think this should be pushed up a bit more. So like that. All these little bumps and curves will help with the reflections in our final render. And our subdivisions are looking very good. They're all purposeful, except down there and other minor cases, but we don't have more subdivisions than we need, and that will really help with our rendering in the final, because Octane does not do very well with glass materials, specular materials and stuff like that. So having as many subdivisions as we need, but not too much, will always help. So if I take a look out here, there's a bit of a smoothing issue here. I don't think this looks right. So let me just try and play with this. Okay. I think that looks around okay for now. We'll do the minor adjustments soon. And then I'm just going to go and get rid of this line. Dissolve. I'll take these faces here and I'll delete these. I'm going to save it quickly. And then you might actually want to go what's this thing called? A wine glass save. Like so. Cool. So now we have a very nice base mesh, and we'll probably replace these two once I do the minor adjustments, but for now we'll just keep it like that. So I'll select all these top faces here, right click, and I'll extrude on the inside, and I'm just going to take a look at the actual thickness of this thing. 0.2, say. So this should be 0.2 centimeters. That's the thickness. And now what I need to do is take a look inside this thing and make sure that we don't have anything weird going on. So I'm just going to firstly close off this hole. And before I used to go and right click, close polygon hole, and then stitch them all together. But what I found is actually better. Actually, let me just get rid of these extra faces first so I can show you, give you a better visual representation. So these inside faces, you do not want them to be there because that will really mess up your final render and you won't know what's going on. So these inside faces here, delete those. So what I used to do is I would go close polygon hole and then line them all up together with the line tool. But what I found is better, especially if you have a lot of radial subdivisions, is you just go extrude like so, and then you go 0, 0, and then you go and optimize it, and then I'll just close up the hole for you, and then here you can go and just make this the same height. Boom. So now you have a nice closed hole, and there you have your glass all sitting nicely. This top part here needs some subdivisions added, but I think I'll first go and make sure that this... No, we need to do this first. So there's a bit of a rounding at the top of my glass here, so I'm going to try and imitate that by adding a line there, adding a line there, and I'll add one in the middle as well, so like so. So if I go and take these lines here, I can go and push these up. And then here I can go and scale these out a bit. And then here I can go and scale these in a bit. Oh, what happened to my line? I swear I just added a line in here, didn't I? That's a bit weird. I was sure I added in a line, but you guys can laugh at me if I've made a mistake in the tutorial. So let's see. Let's add in a line there, and then we will go and scale this in. Take a look. It's not coming out the way I wanted it to. So let me just push this up. I'll add in some lines for support. Cool. So now we're getting that rounding effect that we wanted, and I think it'll look better if I take this. If I take this line here, and then I go and bevel it like so, and then. But this will add up some subdivisions in your scene that you might not want, but now we're getting that rounding that we want. So the glass itself doesn't actually look right compared to the reference I have, so I'm just gonna take a look at some of the measurements. Maybe I've gotten something slightly wrong here, but it should be a bit more curved. So now we can go a bit off the reference image itself and just curve it to our sort of desired outcome. So I want it to be a bit more curved. I'm trying to go off what it actually looks like. So it should be something like that. Maybe I should push this out slightly more. Alright, I want a nice round one. And then these lines inside here. We want to maybe push these down and then scale them out as well. Nice curved glass, and then maybe push it up actually slightly. Something like that. So now we're going to take in some cylinders. Since they're smoothed, they'll actually be a bit smaller than the actual size. So I'm going to bring in an actual cylinder with 4 centimeters radius. So this is what our actual thickness of the glass should be, the thickest part of the glass should be. And if I actually try and, since I've adjusted these outside parts, I can't use those as references as thickest part, so I'm going to use this bottom part as the thickest part of the glass for reference, and that is 7.1 centimeters. So I'm going to go and make this cylinder here 7.1, and then I'll divide it by 2. Divide by 2. And then if I center this towards the glass as well, so that's so this is how thick the bottom, the smallest part of the glass should be. So I'm just going to go and scale the whole glass inside. I'm going to scale the whole glass inwards like so. No, scale inwards. I feel like I'm scaling this thing wrong. Scale inwards like so until it matches our real world here. I'll do the same with the bottle. So the bottle's thickest part should be 7.1, I believe. Yeah, I think this should be, I guess it's around 7.1. It's hard to tell, but we'll go with this as our thickest part of the bottle. And then if I go and just adjust this correctly, like so, and then I make this the radius and then divide that by 2, that should be the thickest part of our bottle. So if I go and smooth out the bottle, if I go and make this X-ray, now we can take the whole bottle and then just scale it outwards until it matches. And here you can see I'm going extreme to try and get this to match the real world reference. And if you want your products to look realistic, get it to match the real thing as much as possible. And that's why I'm going through the extent of doing that. So now our wine glass and our bottle's thickness is correct, or mostly correct. I still feel like this thing should have a bit more of a curve. And I feel like the issue is this thing should be pushed up more and then scaled out a bit more as well. So I'm just going to push this up and then scale it out. Like so. And then this bottom line here, we go here and just try and do that. So I think I'm happy with these two. Got a nice bottle and a nice glass done. And the cork we can do now. And then we will set up our scene for Realflow. So the cork, the way I did that is I just took, this is why I left these lines in here. Like I said, my bottle is fully closed, so I can't actually go and check it in there. But I think it'll be around that thick, around that deep inside the bottle, somewhere there. And if you want, you can go and round these off to maybe 0.5, just to make your things a bit more even. And then I'm going to go and ring select. All our normals and stuff are the wrong way around and stuff, but we'll sort that out now. First, what we're going to do is we're going to go here, mesh commands split. We'll take this piece here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go here. Maybe I should solo it just so you guys can see what I'm doing a bit better. I'm going to go and extrude, and then I'll make this 0 again. Boom. Then you optimize it so the hole closes. And then here I'll go and make that at the floor. So there we go. Now we have the bottom of our corkscrew done. So here we can go and extrude this up. Now I don't actually have a corkscrew. The corkscrew is inside the bottle and it's all closed up. And once I open it, then I'm going to have to finish it. So I don't want to do that. But I'm just going to guess off, I think eyesight here. So maybe 3. Let me just, I can actually measure it while it's inside the bottle and see. So let's go with 3 centimeters. You obviously can have your own references and stuff. So this should be around 3 centimeters. So if I go and push this up, take a look again. That's actually very close. Very close to 3 centimeters. So Cool. So what we can do here is we can add in a line there. We can go ring selection, and then we can go and scale this out like so. And the thing is, why I'm doing this is because when I had my own corkscrew, it was hard to push the cork all the way back in the bottle. So I'd only push the cork halfway in the bottle when I put it back in. So half the cork would be expanded a bit, and then the rest of the cork would be squashed because it kept getting pushed in the bottle, and that's why I'm imitating that over there. So here I'm going to close up this hole. I'm going to go and extrude. I'll make this 0. And then we'll go into object mode, optimize it, close up that hole, and then we can make this the same height as well. And if you want, you can go and round this off to make your life feel a bit more complete. So we'll go 0.4. And I did have a bit of a bevel, I remember having on my corkscrew, so think of something like that. And now we can take it out here, and we can go and smooth this one out as well, like so, inside a subdivision surface. But here you can see it won't match up correctly to your bottle. But if you want it to match up correctly, what we're going to do is we're going to add in some lines to help support it. So we will add in a line over here. And then I should probably make this, I don't know if this will work, but we'll try it. Okay, it does work. So we'll add in a line there. And here I think I'll go and bevel this as well. So 0.1. And then we'll add in a line there and a line there. Cool. So now if I go and smooth this out, and then I try and smooth this out and X-ray it, and you'll see that it actually is matching quite well with the actual bottle, and it shouldn't be going through the bottle glass. If it is, I'll probably just scale it down slightly, but it should be matching quite nicely with the glass. And then at the top here, we can add in 2 loops as well to help support that bevel. And there we go. So that's our cork. That actually looks too long, but oh, that's why I made a mistake. This shouldn't be 3 centimeters high, because I measured the length of the whole corkscrew when I put this part in. So this should actually be 0.5. How can I do this? Let me just take these and then select these faces and then push them down. Then we'll do the same face thing that we were doing earlier. I'm using this here to see, so that should be 0.5. Cool. So I think this is a bit more accurate. I don't have the actual cork to measure, so you can take your time trying to get that right. But that's our corkscrew done, our bottle done, and our glass done. So we're going to set up our scene for Realflow, and then I'll skip to the part 2 of the tutorial. So here we have our cork. We'll call this cork. We have our bottle. We'll call this bottle render. And then here I'll go glass render. We'll be using a render version of our glass and a collider version of our glass for Realflow. It just helps to have them separate. It'll help with your simulation times and stuff later. So here we'll call this glass render as well, and then we'll call this bottle render, and then cork. So just push this slightly to the side here. Cool. So we will add in a plane. This will be our floor. I think I'll go 1, 1, and then 40, 40, and let's just scale this outwards to, maybe we'll go 150, 200, and something like 50. So we'll add in a bend deformer. We're gonna get that. We're gonna try and get that studio look. So I'm just gonna rotate these. This should be 180, I think, and then this should be -90. If I just play with these a bit. I should get the effect that I'm looking for. Scale that down. It's 90 degrees. And if I push this back a bit, cool. Cool. So we will set up a camera, Octane camera, and then here I go and bring this render safe back in, and then I can go to portrait, and I'm going for a 1920 by 1080p, so standard HD here, 16 by 9 format, like so, and I'll just go JPEG for now. Octane render, cool. It's crashing, please don't crash. Oh, plugin activation, that scared me because I haven't saved this in a bit. This is why you save your files, guys, so save that quickly. And if I go here 90, and I'll just round that off by 9, and then here I'll sort of try and adjust this to the center. What I would actually do is I would put the bottle, since we're going to be, let's just get rid of this cone here. Since we're going to be using our bottle as the collider for our liquids, we're going to place that at the center of the scene. I just find that helps it just makes things a bit easier, so that you don't have to move the bottle itself around and then have problems with it in Realflow. You can just move everything else around and have this perfectly in the center of the scene. This way you can have your camera and stuff focus on it and stuff as well. So I'm just going to go and put this inside a group and call this bottle. And then I'll just push this to the side, and I'll make this at the center of the scene. So the collider that we'll be using inside of Realflow will be nice in the center of the scene, and they'll just slightly make things a bit easier in the future. So you can make this the center of your composition if you want, but I'm going to go and make them both the center of the composition. So if I go and adjust this like so, and then just push this down and push this out, readjust it up a bit, something like that. Let's go 3.3, 2.3. Something like this. This is where you start to get into the details of how you want your composition to look. Go and add in a protection tag so we don't just mess up all the work we just did. And now, hopefully you have Realflow render kit. I'm not really sure. I don't know much about Realflow's software and stuff that they use. They have Realflow 10, Realflow 2015 and other versions. They also have a plugin version and stuff, so I'm not sure exactly what you would have, but what I have is I have a Realflow render kit here, and actually you don't need that, but this is for importing particles and stuff like that. This is if you're using your standard Cinema 4D renderer, but here I have a particle importer and a mesh importer, and also object importer. So we're going to need these over here if we want to get our objects out of Cinema 4D into Realflow. We'll need these object importer and exporters, and if we want to get our mesh, which will be our liquids to render inside of Octane, we'll need these mesh importer and exporters here. So you'll need these to carry on with the tutorial and go along with what I'll be doing. So that's all you'll need though. But I'm not sure how Realflow does their software and what exactly you would have, but you need these. Octane doesn't know how to see particles, so particles here and your RK mesh won't work, but these four are pretty much all that you'll need for moving on with the tutorial. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and copy this, and then I'll just hide this for now. And then I'll combine this all into one, and then I'll hit optimize. I probably shouldn't do that actually. I probably shouldn't optimize it, but I'll just combine it all into one. And this will be our glass collider. We'll be using this for colliding our particles inside of Realflow. And the reason why I keep a render version and a collider version is if you have too many subdivisions on your render version, it can slow down your particle simulations inside of Realflow. But in this case, we're very well optimized. We don't have too many particles that we don't need. Obviously, in some cases like there and there and there, we do have more than we need, but it's not enough to drastically change our Realflow performance. So, but I'm still going to keep them separate so that we don't interfere with them. So here I can go and create a bottle, render copy, and I can go and make this editable, optimize, and here I can go bottle collider. We're not actually going to be colliding anything with our bottle. It'll just be there for visual purposes, but so yeah, that's why I created that, just for visual purposes inside of Realflow. And what we can now do is we can set up an espresso so that if we move our glass, our collider moves with it, and the same with our bottle. And that'll just help that we don't have to move them both at the same time every single time we want to change things around the scene. So it's a nice extra part of the tutorial here we can do. We can simply just drag in our glass render subdivision surface and then our glass collider here. And then here we can go coordinates, position, coordinates position, not global position. We want our actual position, and then we can just connect those two together. So now if I move this around with it, if I move this around, the collider moves around with it, which is what we want. So I'm just going to undo that. So there. And then what we can do is we can copy this onto the bottle over here. And then here I can just go and replace this with our bottle. And then in here we can go and replace this with our bottle collider. So now we don't need to see our colliders anymore. We just need to see our render versions, and that's all we'll need. These will be visible inside of Realflow itself. So now we have our scene set up quite nicely. We spend a nice amount of time making sure that we get these things correct and making sure that they all come out very nice. And now we can focus on Realflow inside the next tutorial. So that's the modeling part 1 of this tutorial done, and I'll see you inside of Realflow inside of part 2.